Hello everybody and welcome to this webinar about Pirche. Briefly, people are coming in. So today we're going to learn more about Pirche and how they are using AI-driven technology to redefine organ transplantation and optimize cancer treatments. And of course, we will also talk about the investment opportunity in Pirche. And for this, we have the team with us today. So Bethany Dale from Pirche, Thomas Klein from Pirche, and Lucas Lin from Invesdor. So thank you all for joining. And before that, we will do a brief introduction of the people who are here. And then we dive into the presentation. So before we do that, I'll briefly also introduce myself. So I'm Sabine Beuk. I'm co-owner of Generous Minds. We are a cooperative based in the Netherlands of 35 co-owners. And with our expertise and access to capital, we support impact-driven companies like Pirche in order to accelerate their growth and also their impact. And we team up with Pirche because we strongly believe in their highly advanced technology and the fact that this can also influences the life of many, many people. So that's why we are here today, and I will be moderating the webinar and making sure that all questions are answered. So before we start, Bethany, can I ask you to give a brief introduction about yourself?
Certainly. Thank you, Sabine. My name is Bethany Dale, and I'm our Senior Vice President of our commercial business line. I'm based here in the United States, and I've been working in organ transplantation for nearly 15 years. I hold a PhD in molecular physiology and biophysics from Vanderbilt University and did my transplant immunology training at Johns Hopkins School of Medicine. I joined the Pirche team about 2 years ago after working in the diagnostic field in transplantation for some time, and are looking to continue to grow the company along with hopefully some of you and Thomas.
Great. Thank you, Bethany. And Thomas, can you do the same?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Thomas. I'm the founder and CEO of Pirche. I'm an entrepreneur starting and running technology companies. Noxon Pharmaceuticals, which I founded in 1997, is one example. I sold my shares of this company in 2006 after I served as a co-founder for 9 years as a CEO. And Pfizer invested in 2006, and we had deals with Roche and Lilly. Already in 2004, I founded a company, was chairman of this company called Archway. This stands for Architecture Way to Do It. It's a software company, and we were in the requirement engineering field. And after great deals we had with SAP, we were able to sell the company in 2010. Around 2011, 2012, I met Eric Spearings in Utrecht at the University Medical Center. And he introduced me to his concept, and we gave us in 3 years till we had a proof of concept. And then with great investors from the field, we started Pirche, and here we are now today, and I'm happy that we can present you a great company.
Nice. Thank you, Thomas. And Lucas, finally, can you also introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. My pleasure to be part of this webinar again to represent Invesdor today. I am Lucas. I'm based in Berlin, and I am in charge of all startup and VC activities at Invesdor for the DACH market. Invesdor is a leading impact investment platform in Europe, where Pirche is currently have an own funding campaign, as you know. And I've been the main contact person for Pirche and especially Thomas. And there were a lot of different reasons why we decided to support Pirche for its fundraising, but I would suggest to go into more detail a little bit later after maybe our discussion or the presentations first.
Yeah, okay, great. Thank you, Lucas. And for everybody that joined, so the first 25, 30 minutes, we will present about Pirche. So Thomas and Bethany will do that. And then we can go to the questions. So the questions that you share with us in advance, thank you for that. And also questions that pop up now. So feel free to write them down in the chat during the presentations of Bethany and Thomas. And we'll make sure to answer them. So Bethany, Thomas, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much, Sabine. Next slide, please. It does not change here, the slide. So this is because we are a technology company in IT. Is it only with me that I cannot see the next slide? Or
No, and Bethany, I think she's a bit frozen.
That's it. Sorry,
Yeah, I think she goes in and out.
As Bethany is bringing this, let me start without the slides. So as I said, we founded Pirche. Hi, Bethany.
In and out. Yeah, now movement.
It's okay. So yeah, this is our claim, and we have here a quote of one of the greatest nephrologists. It's Alex Lupi, who works in Paris for the Necker Hospital. He's one of the leading nephrologists, and he made this statement 2 years ago at the American Transplant Conference, and there were really discussions after he said algorithms will not replace doctors. However, doctors who use algorithms will replace those who don't. And many of people in the room disagreed there. However, now 2 years later at the same conference, the American Transplant Conference, there is a session in the end where always is shown what was more or less one of the best things which were shown in this week, where 10,000 doctors coming together. And what's hot, what's new is this session, and Pirche was chosen. So a company which is purely digital. And next slide, please. And this shows what development we have here already in. And I would like to invite you to our webpage where you can see the company history and all of the milestones since 2014. This after we had the proof of concept, we started really investing in the company. As of now, there's barely about 20 million euros invested into the technology and the medical development of the company. And we had some great milestones. I will let you know in a moment. Next slide, please. This slide, if you look to the left side at a glance, it describes what we do. We have an epitope matching technology. Epitopes are parts of the surfaces of molecules where finally the immunological reaction is defined between a patient and the graft patient receives. And we are here in the digital diagnostic in transplant medicine as our first business field. We are here on a commercial stage already, and we help doctors to make the right decision on organ transplantation and helping patients to keep the organ much longer as of today. And the second business field where we go in is digital therapeutics in oncology and autoimmunity. As you may know, there was 4 years ago a Nobel Prize in the so-called gene scissor, the CRISPR-Cas9 technology, where now scientists are able much better design gene therapeutics or cell therapeutics. However, they need support here, understand the immunological reaction of these cells to the patient, and that's where we can help. We are here at an R&D stage and working early with companies. However, the important thing and what we would like to show you today is a digital diagnostic field in transplant medicine, because we want to break even there in the next years. What we accomplished is we have 80+ peer-reviewed publications on more than 250,000 patient cases showing the medical evidence of our algorithms, and the whole thing is protected by 25 granted patents in United States, Europe, and some Asian countries. Additionally, we do have other patent applications which help us to have for another 19 years protection on the platform. 850, some more clinics, transplant center globally have already access to the platform, use it for research mostly. And we made some great deals already early in 2021 with clinics in Europe, like the Charité here in Berlin, or the Zurich University Medical Hospital in Zurich. And In 2022, we made a great deal with Version, one of the leading diagnostic companies. They pay us every month for having access to our platform. And last year, we had also a similar deal with Thermo Fisher, one of the biggest companies in the world. In these days, we always made the joke, we are 17 people there, 177,000 people, and we made a peer deal with them because we do have a new digital technology which these companies need. So what we are doing now is scaling our SaaS software service agreements with clinics. We are focusing on the United States because it's a very attractive market for us. And we are moving forward there, scaling up our business. Bethany will show in a moment. And in the post-transplant field, where we help to monitor and steer the immunosuppression, we are entering here R&D partnering. And as I said, the second business field in digital therapeutics, we are already in discussions partnering with renowned pharmaceutical companies. Next slide, please. This is our team. Bethany and I introduced ourselves already. Eric Spriings is the inventor of the concept. He's professor at the University Medical Center in Utrecht, one of the really leading centers for transplant medicine and lab work for the transplant medicine in the world. And he's a renowned scientist, and we are really proud that we can work with him and his team very closely since about 12 years now. And Matthias Niemann, he's Vice President of Technology. He is the brain behind the whole development here. He is a bioinformatics guy and working very closely with Eric. Our team, as I said, is about 70 people now, plus maybe 24 of scientists we are working as consultants with directly. Next slide, please. We are based in Germany, the Netherlands, Utrecht, next to Eric, who's at the University Medical Center as an advisor. We do have 2 employees, Bram and Ben. Ben is our director there since some years, and Bram joined the team some months ago. In Berlin, we do have a team for IT and quality management and marketing and bioinformatics also. And in the United States, this is very much focused on the market. Bethany is the Senior Vice President for commercialization. Morgan is our director there for sales, for partnering with clinics, and with Hillary. She is working out from Philadelphia. She is a so-called product owner. She is the angle between the development and scientists and the customers, helping to really make a great product out of this great idea. I hand over now to Bethany. She is very close to the market and can introduce how we are scaling the business.
Thank you. So I'm going to walk all of you through our clinical issue and how we are aiming to address it with the technology provided by Pirche. Ultimately, the largest problem in transplantation is early graft loss. And unfortunately, approximately 50% of all transplanted organs are suboptimal functionally or completely rejected within 5 to 10 years of transplantation. And as an organ recipient, they would be shocked to know that everything that can be done is potentially not being done. And where the risks are in their graft life is in donor-recipient risk assessment. So how can we do a better job, not just of matching, but also assessing the risk of the compatibility between a donor and a recipient? This then translates on the post-transplant care side to how do we manage the individuals. And up until recently, this was really done as a one-size-fits-all approach. Everyone got biopsies, everyone got the same amount of immunosuppression, really regardless of what kind of risk the immune system was continually being exposed to. And so where Pirche brings the solution to this is really looking into the future. How can we help predict who is going to be a challenging individual to manage, who should be managed a little bit more closely? And we can kind of tackle this on both the pre-transplant and the post-transplant front. On the pre-transplant side, this is having a real deep microscopic dive into precise molecular matching. This is AI-driven and machine learning-enabled prediction of protein-protein interactions with a high complexity computation involved. And then on the back end, we then use that as an immunological risk assessment on how the patient can customize their post-transplant monitoring, either by foregoing biopsies, depending upon what institution they are at, and even personalized immunosuppression. Each of these individuals is unfortunately on immunosuppression for the entirety of their transplant life. And this comes with significant physiological issues. And so if we can lessen the amount of immunosuppression by helping doctors identify individuals that they can do this with, there's a significant portion of the population that can hold on to their allografts for many more years. This is all driven by the Pirche technology. We're not going to deep dive into the science today, but I do invite you to go on our website and go into the product and the technology segments that walk you through the components of what our platform TX Predictor can do. Ultimately, this boils down to predicting the risk of a transplanted organ being rejected many years in the future. And then additional clinical utility well beyond that. How we've decided to enter into the market comes with connecting with our core industry partners. This is imperative, as not only getting the clinical buy-in from the physicians is important, but how do you actually operationalize this into the day-to-day laboratory testing, reporting, and clinical management of these patients. We've done that successfully, as Thomas mentioned, in 2022 and last year in 2023, with partnership deals with Warfin, previously known as Immucor, and HistoTrack Limb System, which is a subsidiary of the Thermo Fisher Scientific brand. Between the two of these, we have access to nearly 90% of the global market and are leveraging these partnerships, particularly within the United States market. One finding that we did have and is imperative to our business plan is the market actually ready for a technology such as we're presenting? And so last spring, between April and May, we had a third party conduct a blinded study that comprised of 70 different programs out of the nearly 200 in the United States. This is a vast majority, which actually covered 40% of the kidney transplants that are being done here in the States, and over 24 states were then represented. Our major findings are that 96% think that risk assessment can be improved, and 92% think that our solution, epitope matching, can or may be part of that improvement. We then ask them, is epitope matching ready to be implemented? Are they likely to adopt it today, given the information that they have today? And what we can see here in the green bars is, in the traditional way of thinking of adoption, our innovators have been partners with us for quite some time. And then we had some early adopters jump on the bandwagon in 2022. And now really we're addressing the early majority and late majority in the market. And so what this tells us is that the main majority is prepared for adoption. They're truly waiting for someone to walk into their office and have a conversation with them, which is what myself and my partner Morgan have been doing for the past 18 months. What does that market look like? In the United States, there's approximately a little over 42,000 transplants performed annually. And unfortunately, this number is growing at about 8 to 10% year over year. And given that the majority are in the kidney transplant market, this is where we have invested the most of our time and our research. If you look at our publications, we do span all solid organs: heart, lung, kidney, liver, pancreas. But you'll see the vast majority are in the kidney transplant space. Given that, the total market with $1,500 per transplant leads us to approximately $65 to $70 million market. Now, this is where we are today. As we evolve the algorithms and compound algorithms, the cost per transplant may indeed go up over time as the analysis becomes more and more complex. So this is not necessarily a glass ceiling for us, but this is where we are today. Where's our pipeline? So as I mentioned, we've been working on this for about 2 years now in the United States, and generating our pipeline, creating new customers, starting from the research phase and transitioning them over to commercial SaaS agreements. And then you can see here from 2024 to 2028, these are our projections, starting with the recurring revenue that we have in purple, and then the projected new revenue in green. This is a high level of our business plan. A lot more of this detail can also be found on the Invesdor website as well. And then under confidential memorandum that can also be issued. If there's any questions on that, we can take those as well at the end of our webinar. How do we then expand outside of this traditional business line? Where do we think about the future of transplantation? So one of these is known as a domino exchange or a kidney paired donation. This is when an altruistic donor or maybe a loved one decides to donate to someone in need of a transplant and is considered incompatible for either traditional reasons like blood type, we can't transplant an A into a B, or the crossing of the immune system barrier is too high. They then go into a domino exchange, which is described in this figure. And ultimately, the purpose of this is optimizing the least amount of immune risk for those individuals. So we've started working with institutions to implement our analysis there. Additionally, in post-transplant care, this is a holistic approach. This is not just immunology. This is infectious disease. This is gene expression. This is non-invasive biomarker monitoring. And all of this is very expensive. And so how can we help optimize the monitoring protocols that these patients undergo to truly get the most bang for their buck out of not only the livelihood of their kidney transplant, but lowering the cost to the system of managing these transplants as well. And then ultimately the future of transplant, or part of the future of transplant, is xenotransplantation, where modified pig organs that are deemed compatible with the human immune system are transplanted into a human. If you're following the news lately, this has been done what we'll call successfully in the United States a handful of times by some very brave patients who are willing to be the human experiment. And we are working with those institutions to perform higher level analyses on how we can improve this process. This is just a pictogram of exactly how complicated that truly is. This is where the field is. Are we thinking about xenotransplantation as a bridge to transplant for a human? Are we thinking about it as the primary transplant that an individual will live with forever? Is this a transplant that occurs after a failed human transplant and not going back on dialysis? And each time a clinician evaluates a patient for retransplant, they would undergo this risk assessment. And so we've already modified our algorithms in order to understand xenotransplantation. This was presented most recently at the American Transplant Congress in June of 2024. So that is a brief synopsis of our transplant program. And where we're going to more into the R&D field is how do we think about the digital therapeutics that Thomas mentioned, focusing more on the oncology and the autoimmunity space. And as these sectors go into what is called off-the-shelf allogeneic cell therapies, there is a need for matching in this process as well. We won't go into the deep details on the science here, but ultimately we're able to partner with allogeneic cell therapy companies from 3 very large buckets. One is a preclinical R&D partnering. This is if someone doesn't quite have a product designed yet, and they're starting to think from scratch. How do we capture the most amount of patients with the least amount of risk? The second bucket is optimizing selection of the shelf that they've already created. These manufacturing protocols, they cannot maintain hundreds of different panels, and so they need to minimize their manufacturing and optimize their clinical impact. And so we're able to aid them in that approach. And then ultimately, if those 6 vials are the options for the individual, which one of those vials is the best therapy for that particular patient? And so in conclusion, I think I'll hand it over to Thomas to wrap things up, and then we'll get into the Q&A.
Thomas, you're on mute.
Yes, sorry, I'm on mute. Thank you very much, Bethany, for the overview. As a conclusion, we have something really new, and we bring it to the market after we invested about 10 years of research in it. It's a late-stage growth funding we have here, and we offer a unique investment opportunity as we offer a unique new step for the doctors. We are planning to raise 3.1 million, about 3 million here. We are doing well, as you can see already on the Invesdor page, and we are happy if you have now some questions to answer them. And whatever some of you wrote me already with some emails, and we are happy to answer these also via email.
Yeah. Thank you, Bethany and Thomas, for the presentation. And yeah, for everybody, there's more information to be found on the Pirche website, of course, and the Invesdor page. Let's dive into the questions. So there are quite a few questions shared in advance of the presentation, and a few now, if I'm correct. So to start off with, I think the first question is from Hans. And he mentioned, what's the difference between Pirche and other players in the market?
Yeah, Bethany, please take this. You are so close to it.
Certainly. So when we think about competitors on the market, we are the only company that has a T-cell predictor for immune risk commercially available. And we will have also been working on our B-cell prediction pipeline. There are 2 other academic technologies which are offered in the research space, and these originate out of the University of Pittsburgh and Leiden. But ultimately, they do not offer a platform and do have limited capacities with no commercial or research support. And so this is where we can kind of round out being at the top of the pyramid by kind of encompassing each of those parameters.
Maybe I can add here something. Our partners like Werfen or Thermo Fisher, they have great products on the market for diagnostics. And diagnostics tell you what's happening. But this is not a prediction into the future, what will happen in the next years and years to come, because patients, after they received a transplantation, for the rest of their life, for example, need immune suppression. And we would like to see beforehand, on basis of the diagnostic data, what's going to happen in the future. And that's what we are doing. This is a difference. No one is doing this except Pirche.
Yeah, clear. Thank you, Thomas and Bethany. The next question is about, of course, there are many patents. One question that came in is, how is it possible to have 25 patents already? Maybe you can elaborate a little bit on that.
Yeah. Patenting is a strategic task for a technology company, because with a patent, you can secure your field, you can secure your product. No one is able to really sell it. And this is why from day one, we invested a lot in patents, and this is why we have 25 granted patents. We have even more applications, about 6 or 8 applications now out additionally, because we want to make it stronger. And as a patent always is good for 20 years, if we add on patents after patents our platform, the protection always is with a new patent if we can cover them all for the whole security or to secure the whole platform for another 20 years. So we invested as a first step over these 10, 12 years about 250,000 euros only in lawyer fees and the works and the fees for the patent offices. And this is why in the United States and Europe we have all of these patents. This is like a fortress from where Bethany can go out and do her work in the market.
Yeah, thank you, Thomas. And you already mentioned a few countries, continents where the patents are signed. Can you tell briefly about where exactly?
Yeah, so we always claim patents in the beginning in the United States and in Europe. In Europe later, then we have to go in the different countries, and you never go in all 26, 27 countries. You always choose some of them. We always choose the Netherlands as we come from there. With our technology, we choose the bigger countries, UK, France, Germany, sometimes also Italy or Spain. So we differ here between the patents. So we have a whole coverage all over Europe. In Asia, we always go to Singapore, because Singapore is very much related to many of the transplantations. We are also in China, but in China we are a little more carefully, because the Chinese patent office, we don't really think they are totally neutral, and they make it quite complicated for foreign companies with patents. However, we do our best to get a patent there also granted, which is not the case so far. But if you have the United States and Europe, no one can enter the global market, because these are the leading geographies.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Thomas. Next question is a bit broad, so I think it's more questions in one question, and also two similar questions came in, so let's try to answer this. The question was, where will Pirche be in 5 years? Also, if you look at products, size of the company, valuation. And another similar question was the product roadmap, so that's the same, business opportunities and growth path. So I think a little bit of a sneak peek into the future.
Yeah, Bethany has shown already within transplant medicine, what is our field where we are in commercial stage with our product. We want to be broader there. We can work also already today for all organ transplantations next to kidney, which is with 70% the majority of all transplantations. We can work with liver, lung, and heart and pancreas transplantations also in doing it. However, we want to have this kidney pair donation. We want to go in the post-transplant care where we can help to find the right individualized immunosuppression. And a new big thing will be the xenotransplantation. And here it's important to understand how the human immune system can go together with the swine immune system, and here Pirche has already answered. So this is where we get broader and brighter. And as I said also in the beginning, there's a second market, fortunately opening now since some years. This is in cell therapy, and here we help to identify the right setting for cell therapeutics. That patients can use it, because you have to understand that cell therapeutics, you can see it a little like a transplantation. It must be a match there also to the patient and the cell therapeutics, and we can help to understand this as we do it for organs. Also, this is a huge market and much bigger even than this, but we will enter only as we move forward very carefully together with our industry partners. In this funding, we focus on the transplantation medicine.
Yeah, thank you, Thomas. There was one other question that came in, and it's slightly related to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So what will be the end game for Pirche? I think they're also referring to potential exit scenarios.
Yeah, we have on the Invesdor webpage 3 exit scenarios, which are good for this company, as we control the whole field, as we own the whole field with the patents and have the relationship with the clinics. One exit scenario, which is most likely with technology companies like Pirche, is that one of the big players in the market acquires it. And we have already had requests, and they want to understand what we do from our partners, from other big companies. And we see within next 2 years, as a company is going to be break even, that we may be acquired by one of the partners. The valuation will be then hopefully X3, X5 from now. This is what we try to do. And the other opportunity is to float the company at the stock market, most preferably at the US stock market. To do so, I think we must go also into the cell therapy field. Then we are very broad, and it makes sense to float the company. The third option is brought in by one of our investors who said, no, just stay as an independent company all the years. You are so highly profitable that you can pay to the investors every year dividends. And investors who don't want to be long-term engaged can sell to other investors. We have contracts, and everyone who is investing here via Invesdor has the same right to sell his or her shares to other investors or acquire them if someone wants to keep it long-term. So one of the three options here, M&A, so a sale, an IPO, or long-term independent company, we will decide within the next 2 years and discuss with all shareholders what will be the best and what's in the best interest of the shareholders.
Yeah, clear. Thank you, Thomas. And I think we've heard the focus on the United States, of course, a couple of times. I think it's also interesting to elaborate a little bit on why this focus is now at the United States, and how perhaps this will develop also in the future to other continents.
Bethany, would you like?
Sure. I'll start and then you can chime in. I think the focus here is that a lot of the adoption of novel technologies in the most recent years has taken place in the United States. And so leveraging the willingness of the clinicians to try new things is something that we're willing to take the risk on. And having my experience with the clinicians in the US, as well as Morgan's experience with the clinicians in the US, we bring really strong key opinion leader relationships to the table in order to execute against our business plan. And so looking to the future, how this adoption curve looks, in the most recent years, things like cell-free DNA, as an example, have come to the market and very readily been adopted within 5 years of product launch. And so we're hopeful that if we take similar strategies, that we will be able to be as successful as some of those diagnostics as well.
Yeah, maybe from my entrepreneurial standpoint, the United States is one big market with 330 million people. Even in Europe, living 450 million people, it's divided in 28 if you take UK with it. And Switzerland, 29 even countries. And in the United States, as in Europe, we are allowed to sell our product, what we have today already. But if we want to go into the post-transplant care, which is even more attractive also for the clinics, we need approval. In the United States, we will have, for this next step of development, after we can sell already now, approval from one authority, it's the FDA. In Europe, we have to go in each country separately. We have a reimbursement in the United States, which is very attractive, and we get it from one authority. In Europe, we have to do it 27 times, and in average is only 2/3 of the reimbursement in the United States. This is why we are now, as a first step, focusing on it. And the last reason why we do it, we have great people like Bethany in the United States bringing us a market because they understand the market and doing a great job bringing our product to the clinics who want to use new things.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Thomas and Bethany. Next question is, will Pirche break even without further financing in the near future? How does that look like?
Yes. Pirche can break even in our planning, what you can find on the investor page, in the transplant medicine market. This is where we are already in commercialization. This is where we are focusing on. This will be done within the next 2 years, about 2026, in the middle of a year, we plan for this. If we are going to invest, even if we do it in partnering with the industry into the cell therapy market, we need another investment for it. We can just afford from the money coming in now some steps to do that we can partner with the industry. However, one of the exit scenarios is stay an independent digital diagnostic company in transplant medicine because it's highly attractive, highly profitable. We don't need for this another investment after these 3.1 million.
Yeah, okay. Clear as well. There was one question that we had a little bit of doubts maybe in how to answer it, but let's try. So the end game for transplants seemed to be 3D printing organs and using one's own stem cells, so no compatibility risk. This should be able to disrupt your business model, shouldn't it?
Yeah, so I'll start, and again, Thomas can provide his insights. Ultimately, this is a technology that is being investigated, and there are some companies attempting to address the market in this capacity. However, that solution is nearly 10, 15 years out in the future. What we're doing is addressing the problem that we have today, and will continue to have, as the individuals receiving organs today will hopefully keep those organs for decades to come. What we also are doing is addressing the technology that is at the forefront, which is the xenotransplantation technology. As mentioned, we've already amended our platform algorithm in order to perform this compatibility assessment, and have already established partnerships in order to make that a reality as that becomes closer to the clinic.
Oh yeah, very good, Bethany. And let me just add one thing to think about. Even if someone would be able in 10, 15, 20 years to print cells with a 3D printer, make it out of the millions of cells an organ which is living, you need always, even with printed organs, a matching with the patient. You can't have one which fits for all. This is to complicate our immune system. So if this is the case, hopefully they need Pirche also for the 3D printers. That's what I think, and we can wait because it's 15, 20 years from now that this may work.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. We're heading towards the last 2 questions, unless new questions come in through the chat. One question I think is also good to elaborate briefly on is, what's the potential biggest risk of your business in growing in and also your impact, generating your impact?
Bethany may have some detailed answers on this from the market. Let me start with an entrepreneurial view on risk. If you are not focused on what you do, if you want to save the world in 1,000 cases, just do one thing what you can do really well, and that's what we do here with transplant medicine, where we have proven in 250,000 patient cases, shown in more than 80 peer-reviewed scientific publications, that our algorithms work, that they have a medical evidence for the patients. And that's what we do. And after we have done this, and we are now entering in the market, we very carefully look around, which may be another good opportunity. So focus is a de-risking strategy. And there may be also risk from the market, Bethany.
No, I think you answered that pretty well. And like, joking aside, I think Thomas and I have talked about this. Ultimately, something like a global pandemic is a risk to the business, where scientific shifts away from some of the clinical challenges that we have every day into a more focused panic response, where we're only trying to answer one question. So our goal, as he said, is focus on what we know and do it very well and execute against that. And that will help us de-risk the business strategy.
Clear. Thank you, Bethany and Thomas. And the final question I wanted to ask to Lucas, because for some of the people joined today in the webinar, maybe they're new with Invesdor, or just in general interested to see how Invesdor selects the company that they allow on their platform. So, Lucas, can you tell us a little bit more about that, perhaps?
Yeah, sure. So basically, we as Invesdor focus on impact in general, like renewable energy projects, and also what is more, this is our key business on innovative growth companies like impact startups and scale-ups that are somehow or sort of related to ESG or SDG goals. And we almost have 200,000 private investors from more than 100 countries that can decide by themselves in which projects or companies they would like to invest in. And our due diligence process is similar to the one of, I would say, a traditional VC, because we also meet the founders. We look into the business plan, the business model. We evaluate the management team, the overall product market fit. We do analyze the market potential. We do market research as well. And finally, and ultimately, also check the growth story as well as potential exit opportunities. And the last step in our decision making is our investment committee, where our board members, our investment managers, and our analysts take part to finally decide whether we bring the company on our platform or not. And the companies we support, they need to have a proof of concept, which means in our case, at least 500,000 to 1 million in annual sales. And ideally, a strong impact focus. It doesn't matter which kind of industry. It could be healthcare, what is the case for Pirche, could be renewable energy, battery tech, real estate, or any kind of green techs, so to say. And this is maybe also interesting for all the attendees here. Why did we decide in favor of Pirche? Well, there were many different reasons, but to make it short or to sum up, it was mainly its very highly innovative solution for an existing medical problem. That was something Bethany just mentioned right now. We have a problem today, and Pirche has a solution for that problem, which is very amazing and has a very great impact. Then in this context, also worth mentioning is the strong product market fit with more than 20 patents, which brings Pirche in a very ideal and very strong market position. Also, as you can hear and see here, a very experienced management team and well-known investors in the cap table, which is also a very great sign for other investors like us entering the cap table. What else? There are significant cooperations with big industry leaders such as Thermo Fisher Scientific or Werfen. These were or still are essential partners. Also, the fast-growing market, the high potential, and also Pirche already operating in different countries, which is also very, very good to see. And still, there's no limit. And lastly, as I mentioned in the beginning, every investor looks into the growth and also exit story. We still like the predicted growth over the next years and the number of different exit scenarios within the next 2 years, maybe 3 years. And all in all, there are a lot of very strong arguments. And for me personally, it was more than easy to convince my investment colleagues and also the board members to do the case on our platform, which we are very happy about.
Nice. Thank you, Lucas. So I would like to wrap up the webinar. If any more questions come up, please feel free to email the team. We're happy to answer all your questions. And if you really want to go more in depth, there's also the potential option to have a meeting, for example. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you, Lucas, Thomas, Bethany, and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sabine.
Thanks.
See you. Bye-bye. Thank you, Bethany. Thank you, Lucas.
Thanks.